Hello everyone, I'm David John Sponheim for America's Third Party, running for president in 2016. Tonight is what we call Open Topic Night, Wasteful Wednesday. We've got a lot of people calling in and laughing, and it's just not working for everybody in America. Some people are fixated on stalking various shows on the internet. Some people are downloading porn illegally. Many people are having problems across the board just deciding what to do today. Do you wake up at all, or should you stay in and sleep the whole day because you're depressed? There's so many things going on in our country we need to talk about. Where do we start? We start with abortion, pro-life, pro-choice, capital punishment, pro-death, pro-imprisonment, or possibly talk about gay sex, gay marriage, gays in general. How about talking about non-gays? How about not talking at all? How about just being totally silent for the entire show, just to get your attention? That's not working. I'm going to have to talk. Okay, this is the deal. Our country is going to have to deal with some social transitions. We've got a military that is now allowing people to be openly gay. Apparently they're allowed to even have bestiality. That's allowed now, and sodomy's allowed. So you've got a military that's turning into a social situation, a nightmare, if you will. This year, 26,000 claims of sexual molestation has occurred in the U.S. military. Last year, 19,000 claims occurred. So 19,000 to 26,000, what's going on? Is the military officially gay at this point? Well, I really don't have a problem with gay people. I think that people should be able to do whatever they want, consenting adults and all that, as long as they're not brothers and sisters and under the age of 18. That would be a little weird. But seriously, if you are one of those people that are gay and want to vote for a new political party in America that wants the government to get out of marriage completely, then you would want to vote for us. Seriously. We don't believe the government has a place in marriage. We believe that the articles of the Constitution that stipulate that there should be a separation of church and state, and that's an interpretation that the Supreme Court makes. We believe the separation of church and state applies to marriage, that the government should just get out of marriage completely and stop taxing people unnecessarily, and just it's creating a nightmare for people. And people who are morally against homosexuality can coexist with people who are obviously homosexual. Our country can get along. Kind of like Rodney King said, can't we just get along? We can breach all kinds of barriers that have been constructed falsely in our society. We can talk to people of all colors. Our show could be dedicated to an integrated group of people sharing their view of the world. And that's what this should be about. But unfortunately, we've got a lot of people spamming our show constantly. Thank you, Droogs. You've not spammed us, but we've had a lot of spammers, and they've come in and they've interrupted the flow of what I consider a really great social venue. I could break out right now to our video chat, which at this point has one guy in there, and I don't want to break into it. So instead, I'm going to basically give you a little primer on the news as we know it. Recently, George Zimmerman was acquitted of the crimes that he was accused of. But what happened at the trial is very interesting. Take a look at this video footage of George Zimmerman right before the verdict was delivered, and you'll see what happens.
But he doesn't want the officers to see when he sees that they're converging on him. Now here he comes. Now watch George's right hand. He has something in it. He gives it to his attorney. His attorney does some kind of two-handed shuffle there and slams it into his pocket. And then Mr. Clean walks around with his hand in his pocket. I don't know what he was.
Okay. Exactly what was that was handed off? What is going on? What's happening? Are there side deals going on between Zimmerman and the prosecuting attorney? Did Zimmerman get a fair trial? Are you upset about the Zimmerman verdict, as I'm sure many people are? What was that he was slipping him? A little hit of crack? I mean, seriously, what do people slip each other in the middle of a court case? You tell me. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you it's a little bit strange. That much is true. Now, if you have other questions about the nature of that trial, you have to ask yourself, was George Zimmerman tried by a jury of his peers? Was indeed George Zimmerman tried by 6 men? They would be his peers? No. The answer is no. He was tried by 6 women, not 12 women or 6 men and 6 women, but 6 women. What does that make you think about? Think about how unfair things are. Women can be a non-peer to men, you know. They're a different gender. So I would argue that their peers weren't the same. But it really doesn't matter. What matters is that I talk about something more important, like myself. That's right. The idea of talking about myself. That's something that I think is very good. Let's talk about why I didn't win in 2016, or rather 2012, and why the 2016 campaign could very well be a win. Thank you. This possibility is very real. Our country is in need of a third-party president. We are in need of a person who can at least address issues on a day-to-day basis, important issues. Important issues like whether Tom Cruise and Scientology is a very important event. Let's take a look.
Tom Cruise on Tom Cruise Scientologist.
I think it's a privilege to call yourself a Scientologist, and it's something that you have to earn.
All right, well, obviously you have to earn what being a Scientologist is. I don't know, but I can tell you that it's not my right to talk about Scientology on the show. It is a message that is specific to the Scientology group, so if I talked about it, I would be in violation of their rights, wouldn't I not? Okay, so I don't bring up Scientology. We don't talk about religion on our show for a reason. I am a non-religious person running for president, and I believe that we need that type of non-bias. We can't possibly get away with a biased president who is completely tilted in one direction or another. I'm not a social conservative. I'm not in any way a person who would look for school prayer necessarily as a law, for instance, like many Republicans. Rick Santorum, for instance, supported that. I'm not a social conservative in any respect, other than the fact that I don't want women to have unnecessary abortions. But that is not my right. I believe in pro-choice. So I'm definitely pro-choice, but personally against abortion. These are social issues that we're addressing in our show. And these things are important. The reality of our country slipping into kind of a vortex, mindless vortex of allowing anything and just letting people be whatever they want to be, is ultimately going to hurt our nation. We're not going to have any kind of a solid moral stance once all this is said and done. You're going to see gays having bestiality in the military. You're going to see a nation pretty much doing whatever they want and allowing Muslims to have special favor. And what's going on is this obsession with political correctness in our country has essentially given our nation nothing to hold on to, nothing to rely on. We have the ability right now of determining that abortion is indeed something very serious, but no one really wants to address the atrocities of what abortion really is. I've got a speech from Anthony Levatino right now, which is descriptive of what an abortion is. I'm going to give you a small sampling of that speech right now as we speak. Hang on just a second.
Equivalent to 22 weeks post-fertilization age. As an aside, the last menstrual period dating system and post-fertilization dating systems are equally valid, and both are found in the practice of medicine and in mainstream medical literature. I brought one along so you don't have to imagine it. It's about 9 inches long, it's clear plastic, and there's an opening through the center of it. Picture yourself, if you can, taking this instrument and introducing it through the cervix and instructing your circulating nurse to turn on the suction machine. What you'll see is pale yellow fluid running through the tubing into the suction machine. That was the amniotic fluid that was there originally to protect the baby. You're next going to need a Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long, it's stainless steel, and the jaw on this is composed of rows of sharp teeth. You introduce this instrument blindly and start pulling off limbs. Feel yourself grabbing and pulling hard, and I do mean hard, and out pops an arm about that long, which you put down next to you. Followed that by a leg just as long. And then you tear out the intestine, the spine, heart and lungs. Difficult part of the procedure is the head, which is about the size of a plum. You know you got it right if you, again, this is blind, but you know you've got it right if your instrument's spread about as far as it can go. And you've got a hold of this. And you know you did it right if you crush down a white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains.
Wow. So there you have it. This is coming from an abortionist who has done countless abortions in order to fulfill his obligation to Planned Parenthood. We do not really understand how serious this is. Abortion is killing little babies. Since Roe v. Wade passed in the early 70s, a Supreme Court ruling passed it, there have been over 44 million aborted fetuses thrown in dumpsters. I'm serious. This is a tragic loss of human life and human potential, and we're just sitting back going, oh, it's okay for a woman to right to choose. Well, at America's Third Party, we have a very interesting perspective. We would like to see a first trimester law, if you will, making it so that women could only have abortions during the first trimester. They can still choose, but if they limit it to the first trimester, it would be conforming with the laws. Now, rape would be a different case. Where a person is raped, they would automatically be given a second or third trimester option if necessary, because some people walk around unknowingly pregnant. Women have been known to do that, to virtually think that everything's just fine, and everything's not just fine. Let me bring back the banner there. Their presidency is up and running for 2016. Okay, I'm reading some of the chat. Yeah. A lot of you are completely cold and callous to the situation that Anthony Levatino just described. Killing the little baby. You don't seem to realize you were a fetus at one time. You were inside your mother's womb, okay? Yes. How would you like to have your head scrunched and brains spurted out? Seriously, think about it. You just feel lucky that you weren't a living abortion? I mean, you just think that you don't have a moral obligation to take consideration here into what's really going on. So a first trimester law would prevent the reckless killing of babies that get bigger than this big. Now, during the first trimester, a baby's about this large. The cerebrum has not fully developed. So at that point, the level of pain that organism or arthropod feels is limited to a core. So when we're killing a little baby that big, it's not causing the same level of pain if we're killing a baby this big, like he has to do. Now, I think he's very brave to make statements like this publicly so that people know how serious it is to kill little babies, okay? That's why we take a stand on issues like this. We don't want just a reckless pro-choice environment that allows Planned Parenthood to get federal funding and constantly just keep making abortion mills left and right. And we are very concerned about the ethical use of that material. I don't want stem cells to be abused. I do support stem cell research, but I don't want it to be like a mill to create material for stem cell research. We don't want abortions just being thrown into medical supply bins. It's ridiculous. So bear in mind, a lot of the Republicans that haven't seen action in this area will see action from America's Third Party when it comes to proposing a first trimester law. Now, the idea of growing organs is very real.
Can you hear me?
Hang on, I can't hear you. That was loud. Yeah. There you go, Don. What do you want to say? I'm listening. What's your concern?
Could you hear me?
I'm hearing you now. What are you saying?
NASA's privately owned.
This guy continues to say all night long that NASA is privately owned, and we've got right in front of us a image from Investing Business Week has an entire description of NASA. I'll give you the company review. You can look at it. I don't know why you're having a problem reading this, but oh well. Here's the company review on NASA. Company overview of NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. They are a U.S. government agency that researches, develops, conducts, and tests civilian and military aerospace systems. I mean, what about that can you not read, Don? You don't have to answer that. All right, moving on. NASA, was the topic of discussion earlier before we started this version of our archive video. And I do want to address a simple fact that we don't, as a nation, utilize all our resources. NASA has cost us billions of dollars, and we aren't even seeing NASA think of ways in which they can make money back. The reality is NASA has recently stated that they don't want to do any mining on the moon. They would rather privatize everything. That's a real problem. Why would we privatize a government agency that obviously needs to make some money back, especially considering all the tax dollars that's gone into the program? So where Obama is at when it comes to NASA and spending is completely off base to what we believe in. We believe that the government needs to make money back. And I don't see any of that happening right now under the Obama administration. All right, so a lot of things are talked about today in the news. Let me just do a recap here. I have some funny things to show you, social topics, fun things that are hilarious to just watch. But you can't really know for sure if it's going to be funny. I've got Ernest Borgnine here, who recently passed away. I think he was about 95, but when he was 91, he was interviewed on camera, and I think it's hilarious. You might want to enjoy listening to this little interview with one of the most famous actors in U.S. history, a star of the Poseidon Adventure and countless other movies. Check this guy out. He's really, really funny. I think you'll get a laugh out of this.
Secret.
I don't dare tell you.
Know me. You don't eat me.
I masturbate a lot.
Okay, I think to the show, but real quickly, you're 91 years old. You look fantastic. You look like you're in your late 60s, early 70s. What's the secret?
I don't dare tell you.
Know me. You don't eat me.
I masturbate a lot.
Okay, I think. Thank you, Ernie. That was great.
I actually heard that.
Ernie, have you ever been on YouTube?
Yesterday.
What are you talking?
All right, that was just a fun little anecdote. I thought that was hilarious. We have a social topic venue tonight, open topic. I'm going to go to the monthly Treasury report as well, talk about government waste. And Don, you are on. I'm listening to you now. Sorry I had to cut you off earlier. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But
Hey, what's going on with that one dude that military dude? Damn, I was loud.
yeah, that was really
That-
loud, yeah.
That they found guilty or something?
Right. Well, he was acquitted, meaning he got off
What did he
of the
say?
charges
What
of
did he do?
Well, Bradley Manning revealed a lot of top secret documents through the WikiLeaks organization a couple years ago. And they charged him with espionage and being a traitor to the country. And the ruling was that he did compromise national security. He has 134 years to serve, supposedly, a maximum sentence for doing that. But they found that he did not in any way act as a traitor, per se. He didn't help the enemy.
What all did he tell people?
He was acquitted of helping the enemy, yes. He told people military secrets I can't even bring up. I have openly stated that I believe that he should be given amnesty. Eventually, I think he needs to serve some time, though, because what he did was very, very serious. But amnesty is something I would put on the list. Pardoning him would be a secret to moving on and finding out what exactly he did say that the American people really needed to know. Like, did the Iraqi government authorize the killing of innocent civilians? No. Did our government engage in the killing of innocents in the Iraq War? Apparently, yes. And we would never have known that if Bradley Manning hadn't revealed certain videos and certain information that showed specifically that our country did fire on innocents. Okay, we've got a call from a person in our show. Let's take that call. Hello, Mr. Rodney. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, Dave. Well, I mean, what are your thoughts here on this whole event in September?
Okay, you're worried about a coronal mass ejection coming up in September that was...
No, Dave, I'm not necessarily worried about that happening. I'm worried about something else happening and perhaps being blamed as the other.
Okay, like a false flag operation to cover up the economic downside of what's going on.
Correct, Dave. That's
Okay,
correct.
I'm glad you called about this, Rodney, because we always take serious calls from people, and you seem pretty serious about this. Are you worried about your savings, about all your income?
Dave, I'm worried about mankind. This supersedes any monetary denominations.
Seth Ross says, David, we need a president that welcomes whistleblowers, but that's unlikely, being we wouldn't need whistleblowers if we didn't have the effed up presidents that allow that stuff to happen. Good point. Yeah, well, we are going to need whistleblowers. I agree. Well, Rodney, your concern about a false flag economic cover-up of the catastrophe that's going to happen is very real. You're not the only guy who's talking about it. Peter Schiff has openly stated, Rodney,
fluoride in the water if you became president.
I would pull fluoride out of the water, Don.
Hey, Dave, enough
All
of that
municipal
guy.
water would have no fluoride in it. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, Rodney.
Why do
Continue.
they put it in the water?
Don, can you
Hey,
give
Dave.
Rodney some time here? We'll talk about that in a second.
Dave, when do you think I should pull the plug on my portfolio? I mean, we're at 15.5. When do I pull the ripcord, Dave?
I'm concerned right now. You're not going to reach 16,000 without a major collapse. I
Just
really
get
believe.
out?
Yeah, I would recommend getting out and storing maximum supplies of sardines in your cupboards just to live. You really could get that bad if you don't have food storage right now, Rodney. I'm not talking about your 401k. I'm talking about your
No, real
jars
money,
of
real currency,
peanut butter.
Dave.
Okay, real currency is something you always need cash. Cash is king. But
Right,
you
but
can
I
only
have some fishing poles. I'll be able to go right out on the beach and catch something,
Yeah,
Dave, while the
yeah.
rest of you losers starve.
Well, we're not losers, Rodney. We're all people here, and we need to start thinking like people
Well, not
instead of
you,
a bunch
Dave.
of selfish.
You're going to be all stocked up over
Well,
there.
I am, yeah. David, you sound like Von Helton now. I'm not sounding like anybody. The fact is, we are prepared for a financial collapse. I did a show on the internet called Countdown to Economic Collapse, and it stopped as soon as the collapse started. So I'm of the belief that we are currently in a collapse, and what Rodney's saying is very real. They need a reason to blame the collapse of the economy on something, so anticipate a false flag. What do you think it'll be, Rodney?
Hey, Dave, don't say I never gave you any good information.
Oh, this is being recorded, Rodney. So what do you think it'll be? Do you think it'll be a
I'd rather not.
blackout in major
Dave,
cities?
Dave,
Oil shortage? What's going to be?
Dave, I'd rather not say.
What do you mean not say? Can you not see? It is real. All
No,
right.
Dave, I mean, I'd rather not make some kind of wild guess and
Okay.
for some reason be right, and then next thing I know, I'm in Cuba in the cell with you and Elkie David.
I would never ever spend any time privately with Alki David in a cell. It would be
You
dangerous.
guys are both going to be in Guantanamo if you keep it up, Dave.
Keep what up? We're not doing anything wrong, Rodney. Why do you keep?
Right.
We're not doing anything wrong. What
Sure.
we're doing is called free speech. It's under the purview of free press, and we do this every night. It's a little hectic, I'll agree. And yes, the
think
show is a
so.
little bit odd in many ways, and I don't deny that it's an entertaining venue. And a lot of you watch
the
this
federal
because
courts are going to disagree, Dave.
I don't think the federal courts have any jurisdiction over free speech when it comes to the full exercise of free
Well,
speech.
they do on copyright infringement, Dave.
So far, there hasn't been any copyright infringement. Every single show that we've played has met and complied with the 24-second DCMA laws, Digital
Hey,
Copyright
Dave,
Monitoring
have
Act.
you gotten any hate mail from Yetta since you were showing her?
We're not going to be talking about other people, Rodney. We allowed Rodney into our show because, I don't want to make people feel like they are completely alienated just because they're stalking our show on a daily basis. So we give this guy a little time. And we show you fun stuff. So we're not just forgetting about the fact that this isn't an entertainment
All right,
video.
tell us about the fluoride, Dave.
All right, here comes the fluoride story. This is an even more compelling story, folks. And I think if you haven't listened to the stories about fluoride and what it can do to you, you need to listen to something directly from one of the experts on fluoride who worked at the EPA about 12 years ago. And it was part of the union of employers working at the EPA. And I'm going to play that for you right now. Let me just get there. Hang on just a second. You'll be fascinated about this, Don Tony. This guy speaks out about the dangers of fluoridation. And I think if you aren't aware of the dangers of fluoridation, you
How
will
can
be
they
after
put
this.
it in the water?
I'm going to tell you exactly why in just a second. Okay, let me cue it up. Okay, we are going to take the EPA Director Headquarters Union calls for a moratorium on the use of fluoride. This happened 12 years ago, folks. I'm going to cue this up for all of you to listen to. But what they do, Don, is they claim that there's ample evidence that fluoride prevents cavities. But when you go and look for evidence that fluoride prevents cavities, you can't find any hard facts. It's just not out there. And I urge everyone to go into our Starlink button, which is on our main site, americasthirdparty.com. Click the star link, it says links on it, and type the word fluoride in the search engine, and it'll pop up all the articles we've bookmarked for you to look at about the dangers of fluoride. What does fluoride do?
I read that fluoride, like Prozac. Prozac is like 80% fluoride or something.
Exactly. Prozac is mostly fluoride, yes. Most of the heavy-duty antidepressants are mostly fluoride. It numbs you. And what fluoride is a product that was used as rat poison back in the 1930s and 1920s. Sodium fluoride was used extensively in our country to kill rats, okay? Well, when the EPA was formed and they decided that since fluoride was already in our environment from way back in the 30s, we didn't need to in any way study it. So the Food and Drug Administration and the EPA didn't study fluoride or its dangers. But this guy, who I'm going to refer to right now, is at the EPA headquarters. He's the union leader calling for a moratorium 12 years ago.
Did the Nazis really put fluoride in the water of the concentration camps for, like, the Jews?
They did it for the Jews and the Germans. The German population was fluoridated in their municipal water supply, much like we in America are fluoridated right now. They got as much
Is it really illegal in Europe now?
In some places it is, yes. The dangers of fluoride have been documented. They dumb you down. They make you not think. So if you're wondering why we are so having such a hard time communicating all the important issues to the American people about the need for a third party, part of it is because we are encountering people that are fluoridated. And that may be you, folks. You get it in your soda, you get it in your beer, you get it in
so
your
even if
tap
you don't
water.
win for like the presidential run, are you gonna like start like a campaign to get fluoride out of the water?
Well, I'd like to say I'm starting the campaign daily, but we have yet to really focus solely on fluoride. It's just one of the many things we talk about on our show, and I'm glad you brought this up, Don Tony, because if we don't talk about it, no one else will. Now, let me play you a little bit of this video from this expert at the EPA that was warning government that this stuff has got to get taken out of our municipal water supply. Let me play it for you, and please don't talk during the video. Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Hertzie. Good morning, Chairman Smith and Chairman Crapo and fellow staff workers. Thank you for the opportunity to appear today to present the views of the union on the issue of fluoridation of public water supplies. Our union represents the staff, scientists, lawyers, and others who analyze hazard, exposure, and economic data and advise management on how to use them in public health protection. I'm not here today to speak for EPA, but rather the union, founded 17 years ago to protect EPA workers from unethical pressure by EPA managers. It was on that basis in 1985 that we first got involved in this issue. In 1997, we voted to oppose fluoridation, and our opposition has grown stronger as more
Hang on, it's coming.
adverse data on the practice has come in. In the interest of time, let me state our recommendations. The American Dental Association listing EPA as an endorser of fluoridation. The then Assistant Administrator for Water, Bob Perciasepi, wrote back to Congressman Young and said that EPA had asked ADA to take EPA's name off the lists of endorsers of fluoridation. So it's a wash. EPA, I think, is playing the good federal soldier in supporting this program that's been a federal mandate more or less for 50 years, but officially it's not on the list of endorsers.
You cited several studies which were very interesting. I saw them in your statement. What kind of are these basically independent studies with no peer review, or has there been sufficient peer review to give these studies more credibility or not?
Now, the ones that are of most concern to us are the peer-reviewed studies that have appeared in neurotoxicology and teratology and brain research in 1995 through 1998. The work of Phyllis Mullinex, for instance, indicated that when rats were dosed, pregnant dams were dosed with fluoride, that would result in serum levels in the brain of the pregnant dams that mimic serum levels in human beings drinking water at that maximum contaminant level. The dams gave birth to pups that were hyperactive, born hyperactive, remained hyperactive throughout their life. That was the reference in my testimony to asking for a epidemiology study that looked after that particular endpoint.
Okay, there you heard this expert talk about how the neurological studies that were conducted showed that it created hyperactivity. Other studies by the Harvard Medical Review as recent as 2012 have confirmed that it causes neurological impairment in laboratory animals. So why is it everywhere? Terrapin is bringing up some links over there in one of the chat rooms about dental fluoridosis. Fascinating. Yeah.
And you know, they put fluoride in our food too.
Yeah.
Could you turn my volume down
I'm trying to, yeah. Your volume is way up. Yeah, I definitely know it's in our food. And, you know, they're talking about putting fluoride in babies' filtered water. They're putting it in Trident chewing gum. Yeah, and this is crazy because babies are really vulnerable to this. Now, isn't it interesting to see that as the number of, the amount of fluoride that is put in our municipal water system and in our toothpaste and everything else we're using, mouthwash, etc., increased, so did the cases of childhood ADHD and childhood autism. Isn't that interesting? It's on the same line on the graph, going up. The number of kids with autism and childhood ADHD increasing at the same rate that fluoride is increasing in our supply, in our food supply and our water supply. All right, well, I think we touched on that story. That's very good. Now I'm going to go look at the municipal, or excuse me, the monthly Treasury report. Take a look at that. I like to do as much as I can during these open topic Wasteful Wednesdays. It's important to discuss as much as we can talk about. Here's a snapshot of the monthly Treasury report from the actual site, fms.treasury.gov. These are receipts from 2011 compared with receipts from actually this is September 2011 because they have to look back on the receipts. We keep increasing our deficit. You see how the number of outlays far increases, is larger than the number of receipts? Almost double.
Could you explain to people what the deficit is, Dave?
Sure. Well, that deficit,
I don't think they know what it is, or I can.
No, I'm showing you this for you to understand very simply. The deficit is the area below the line, and that happens to equal the area above the line. This area up in this section right here, above the line, that's the amount of money we overspent. That was taken and they added it down below so that you can see it's the deficit. Basically, the amount we overspend every year above the receipts that come in to our government is what the deficit is. Now, that is not the debt. The deficit is part of the debt, but it's a component of the debt. Every year we add to the debt, and that,
like a lot of people, a lot of stupid people think that Bill Clinton paid off what's that called? The national debt before, when all he did was just fix the deficit.
Right, exactly. I've got sections here all around the budget outlays in the billions of dollars. Every single month, the government puts out lots and lots of money. I know you can't see the details here, but it's pretty intense. $15 billion a month to Department of Veteran Affairs, $69 billion a month to Social Security Administration. $69 billion a month. So when the government authorized the F-35 recently to be building, they're going to build 70 new F-35s and sell them. Lockheed Martin is going to sell them to the Pentagon. 70 new F-35s for a total cost of $7 billion. That is something they're doing, realizing that the social costs to our country, the welfare, Social Security, food stamps, are like $70 billion a month. So they're saying, why not give Lockheed Martin $7 billion to better defend the Pentagon? Makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, when you think about it, $7 billion seems like a small amount. Well, in the long run, Lockheed Martin's going to get a lot more than $7 billion. They just got $4 billion.
All right, Dave, I'm going to bounce out.
All right,
man. Take it easy.
Thanks
bro.
for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Okay, take care, Don Tony. All right, sorry for the volume disorder, folks, for you watching an archive, but it does happen. We have people coming in and out of our show, and it's not always, going to be a perfect volume control. But I'm looking at the budget outlays, and they are huge. On a monthly basis, these numbers really add up. I'm going to show you that this is this month. And I'm going to give you kind of a zoom in on the whole budget. This is the best way to look at this thing. Okay, 114 billion coming in through individual income taxes, 38 billion coming from corporate income taxes. This is the money coming in. This is the income. And then as we go down the list here, we see the cost, budget outlays. Judicial Department, actually Department of Commerce, Department of Agriculture costs $11 billion a month. Department of Defense military programs cost $63 billion a month. Remember, Obama authorized the $662 billion NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. Well, that's $63 billion per month times 12 months, which is around $662 billion. Department of Homeland Security. This is perhaps the scariest of all. Here's an organization that didn't cost us anything a few years ago. Is now costing us close to $70 billion a year. $40 to $70 billion a year. There's $85 billion going to the Department of Health and Human Services. Remember, that's what I was talking about, Social Security spending. These are the numbers that are basically in need of cutting, big time. And of course, down here below, I'll show you the Social Security Administration. That's another huge number, $69 billion. That's going out every single month. Okay. Let's get that right there. Okay, there we go. Anyway, $69 billion, you can see it right below here, going out to SSA. Now, that number could be trimmed significantly if we stopped paying all the money we pay illegals. There are lots of monies allocated to legal immigrants in America. That's not something we want. We don't want legal immigrants or illegals to get any of that Social Security Administration funding. We could cut that number from $69 billion down to about $30 billion a month for the Social Security Administration to run efficiently so that we can get it under control. They say that the Social Security trust fund will be bankrupt by 2027. These are just estimates. So obviously the two parties cannot cut the budget. They've proven that. We've seen that our country can't possibly find any common ground and form compromises on the budget. So clearly we need some help there. And this again leads me to the conclusion that we need a third party. There's no other way around it. Okay, David, when you're president, how would you fix the national debt? Not borrow money from China? No, we would not borrow money from China. We would in fact work toward erasing portions of the debt. Bonafidity says Social Security is always going broke. That's very interesting, but that's true only because we keep borrowing from the trust fund. But by 2027, there won't be anything left to borrow from. There are lots of teens in public schools, yes. What is your opinion on the list of dead scientists that have been assassinated? Thank you for that question coming from Lovey Boo over in Vaughan. Let's take a look at this article that you're presenting. List of dead scientists. This is very interesting. I heard about this story and I have yet to really talk about it. I mean, since we talked about fluoride, let's talk about this list. This is interesting. The government doesn't want us to pull fluoride out of the water system. They want us to be kind of dumbed down and suffering from ADHD. They don't seem to care about what's really going on in our country. Let's take a look at this. List of dead scientists. Assassinated? Interesting. Okay, I'm looking at this for the first time. Whoa, died 2012. Melissa Katunuti died January 2013. Firefighters find charred body of murdered pediatrician who was hogtied, strangled, and set on fire in her basement. Whoa. Miss Dr. Katunuti worked at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and dedicated her whole life to being a doctor and helping kids with cancer. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, she earned a doctorate in medicine from Stanford University and had initially considered working as a surgeon internationally. She worked on AIDS research fellowship in Botswana through the NIH. She also completed internships at Johns Hopkins and New York University. Okay, what did she know? Well, here's another one. Professor Dr. Richard Crow died May 27th in an off-road accident in Arizona. Dr. Crow came to UH Hilo 25 years ago and helped launch the university undergraduate astronomy program. His numerous publications, co-authored works added significantly to the body of astronomical literature. Okay, I'm not sure why these people were killed, but man, the list goes on and on. Jalera Bagarizadas died January 16th, 2012, shot in the head. According to police, someone walked in the passenger side of her car and shot her point-blank range. She was a molecular genetic technologist student at MD Anderson in Houston, promoting Iranian women's rights. Wow, there is a tremendous list here. Thank you very much for giving us this link. I'm going to have to take a look at this in detail. Well, this is the kind of thing that we do tonight on every single night, every single show. We take links from various people and we integrate them into our show, and I will be adding that link to our link library at Delicious. But I want all of you to know that this is an entertaining, politically active show where we take in information from the blogosphere. And it's one of the things that we're doing as a service to the American people to at least provide link directions like this list of dead scientists, and I'll try to find out more about this. It is an enormous list of 120 dead scientists. There's a Barnaby Jack story in your link. Okay, we're going to take a look at the Barnaby Jack story. Yeah, programmer Barnaby Jack dies a week before showing off heart attack hack that can kill a man from 30 feet away. Wow. This is the news story that broke yesterday, folks. Let me profile this. Thank you. If you guys were watching our show yesterday in archive, we talked about this guy. He's the hacker, 36 years old, that died recently of unknown related causes. We haven't found out why he died. This story is getting weirder as we go. Programmer Barnaby Jack dies a week before showing off a heart attack hack that can kill a man from 30 feet. Whoa. Well-known hacker Barnaby Jack died in San Francisco a week before he was due to show off techniques for attacking implanted heart devices he said could kill a man from 30 feet away. Well, he was messing with some seriously ethically wrong things, I can tell you that. But Jack was a security expert, became one of the most famous hackers on the planet after a 2010 demonstration in which he forced ATMs to spit out cash, dubbing jackpotting. And now the hacking community has expressed shock at the news of his death spread via Twitter on Friday. And he was due to appear at the Black Hat Conference in San Francisco next week, demonstrating his technique. Well, I got to tell you, I do not approve of black hat hacking. All right, white hat hacking I can understand, but black hat hacking, I'm having a problem with that. The country is in need of some serious solutions to problems of security, national security. We are seeing major breaches in our national security at every level. What happened with Bradley Manning could very well happen again, and it is happening across the nation. Hackers have gotten into private phone records and personal files of government employees because that government employee clicked a link that was a keylogger. All kinds of new things are happening in the hacking community that's going to ultimately violate our national security. So what are we going to do about that? We need to get a lot more proactive with going after the real predators on the internet. And what they did recently, they captured 105, they actually got people that were pedophiles that were human trafficking children. And the FBI did crack down on enough to save 105 children from being turned into human slaves, sex slaves. That's something that the government is doing, which is good. But we need to do more. And we need to get a lot more proactive when it comes to the hackers coming out of China that stole 30 of our top secret plans recently from Shanghai. There's evidence that there's all kinds of breaches within our government security nexus. What happened with Edward Snowden? A guy who's a high school dropout, that close to the core of national security. How did he get there? How come a contracted worker without a high school diploma could get that close, and then he turned around and revealed lots of secrets around the world that our government definitely is concerned about? Now, I have again said that I will pardon or give amnesty to the person we are referring to as Snowden if we ever apprehend him. The reason why I'm taking on a dual stance on these issues is I believe that both Edward Snowden and Bradley Manning did something very important to our country. Number one, they violated our security, which is something they should be punished for. And number two, they revealed to the American people how bad our security is. So if we don't get a handle on this, if we don't stop the security breach going on a national level, if we don't have a political process to do that, we'll never get ahead of this incredible ripoff of all of our national secrets, and ultimately our country could suffer greatly. So what we plan on doing is working together with data miners to create techniques, and I don't mean laws, I don't mean changing net neutrality laws, I just mean using better techniques at going after people that are bouncing around proxy servers all around the internet. And that's not you downloading a video. That's not somebody who's just transferring files peer-to-peer that are safe files. But we are concerned about copyright violations as well. So we're also promoting a first strike copyright law that we think would be very effective, minimizing the amount of litigation that could go on for people that steal files and information, but at the same time making sure that artists who work very hard for their works, music, video, otherwise, are paid appropriately on the first strike when they sell it. So when they go out to the media and they start selling DVDs or whatever they're doing, and they start promoting their stuff, they need to make that money right there and then. Long-term cash in copyright law is something that could be litigated for years. And if we don't get a handle on this, it's going to be a complete nightmare for our Justice Department to deal with. So I'm definitely promoting something, but not the kind of laws like SOPA and CISPA that cave in your freedom to download and do things on the internet. We need to get a lot better things going on, and legislation is going to have to be drawn at the congressional level. Anyway, this has been a very long open topic night, Wasteful Wednesday. I will go back to the regular show, but I appreciate all of you watching this in archive, and bear with the entertainment value of the show. We aren't always going to deliver boring political messages. We are going to bring you fun stuff, and that's what makes this show kind of engaging for a lot of young people who want to get involved in politics. So we hope that that'll help at least get the thing rolling for 2016. But thank you very much for coming in and participating and watching the show in archive, and tell your friends about a third party. You can watch us every night, 6 to 8, live at our main site, americasthirdparty.com. Thank you.